want to introduce Ms. Lynn K. Hewart, our Executive Director.
Good morning, everybody.
So you'll hear from her a little bit later when we get started. Again, just for the timing, this is our new advisor training. So whether you're new, or maybe this is your second year and need a little refresh, or maybe you're old and returning, veteran and returning, not old, veteran and returning, veteran and returning, and need a refresher, just kind of on where we're at, this is the session for you. We brought, again, in early, just this was a good time, just in scheduling, to come in before the masses arrive. So our big general session doesn't start until this afternoon, so just coming in a little bit early to get started. All my information is here, but I want to make a note of our website. And also after the conference, I will be sharing all my PowerPoints into a folder, so you don't just furiously scribble things down. Also, you will come to find out that our information is pretty accessible, so if you need to get a hold of us for any reason. So a little bit about Mesa, just to get a raise of hands. How many of you, this is your very, very first experience with Mesa, like have not even met with your regional coordinator? Okay. So that's great. We are very good to, thank you for coming, just to know how much to start at. So, and I will also say this session is, it's short. We're only going to probably run about an hour and a half, and I will give you this full disclaimer. You will not learn everything you need to know about Mesa within an hour and a half. So, but it's a good introduction to things. The follow-up is your regional coordinator. Those are those individuals here. Those are the ones that have likely been in contact with you. They will follow up with you on any questions you have, any reinforcements to training, any reinforcements to anything. This is an overview. Hopefully get you into some acronyms before the day starts, so we start talking about things and you're like, what? That's a different language. But at least starting to get some lingo, some general overview for you as Mesa teachers. So our mission for New Mexico Mesa is to empower and motivate New Mexico's culturally diverse students with science, technology, engineering, math, and STEM enrichment. So in general, our program exists to help students build into the STEM pipeline from high school to secondary education to career. That picture with all of our dots, we actually have a lot more dots than that, but we have not updated our graphic. But you can see the different areas that we're in. Right now we are in over 28 school districts, and we probably are in, I think this year we might be close to 105 schools. We did bring in some new schools this year. So we're all over the state. We have our regional offices kind of located, here and there. And then our statewide staff is myself, Lee, and we do have an accounting technician. So is there anybody here in the room? And again, also second disclaimer, if you have questions, please ask. Like, this is the place to ask them. We're a safe environment. If there's anybody in here that does not know who your region coordinator is or what region you belong to. I know on registration I got a few, everyone just assumes Southwest because we're New Mexico Southwest, but Southwest is actually one of our little regions there. Today, we are going to go over some resources for you. I'll go through the handbook that you guys all received. We're kind of just going to go over generally like what responsibilities are within a MESA program and just some overview on some of the requirements to being an advisor. First thing I mentioned, our website. This is our holy grail, for lack of better words, of where we deposit most of our information that we're getting out to you. So for every event, I say go to the website. All of our handbooks are on the website. All of our resources are on our website. So bookmark it, navigate it, take some time to do it. Just kind of familiarize yourself with some of the tabs. It has not changed, the format, it likely will not, but the information will filter out. But we'll keep it that way, so it's a good resource for our participating teachers, students, and visitors. We also have a YouTube channel, so past sessions that we have done, that we've been able to record, so anything Zoom, especially over all of our COVID times, a lot of our trainings, has all been recorded, and it is there on our YouTube channel, New Mexico Mesa. Also during this conference, we are recording all of our sessions, so you're able to pop up if you need a reinforcer, maybe you don't get to the session you want to watch something else, or you just want to be in 5 places at once, you can go back and review and use those as materials for you later or in your classroom time, okay? One thing of note is during COVID time, when we were all virtual hybrid, that time long ago, we actually instituted a STEM series, a virtual STEM series. So there was a really good opportunity. For 2 years, we had probably over 20-ish speakers come in, do virtual presentations, and those are also up on our YouTube. So they're great. We also have lessons on our website you can pair with. So looking for something to do, hop on a good video with some paired lessons. We are also on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, but with that being said, noticeably more active on our Instagram. So Facebook, try to be better about that. That is which I am not as active as I should be, but our Instagram is pretty accurate and updates fairly regularly. There's a picture of our website, and I think that's still one of our pictures that's scrolling just because we really like it. But it might be like picture 3 or 4 on our website, but that's when you know you're in the right place. So the advisor handbook, you guys all received one. It is also available, now that I'm thinking about it, I might have updated the current one. If not, I'll do it now during break. But you guys all have it, here with you in person. This is the best resource for all advisors. It just gets updated every year, it reinforces everything I'm saying, has all the contact information in there. If you like the printed copy of things, if you like, referencing pages, taking notes, this is the best place for it. Please note that it used to be pretty thick. The forms are the things that take up a lot of the space in the handbook. So the information part you have, all of our forms are online. So it is in 2 parts. And then so within that, you're going to find background information on MESA. So if anyone asks, what is MESA? You can tell them what is MESA. Also outside on the table, if you notice, there was some handouts that were like 2023, 2024 data. Those were things we used for our last year's legislative events, but they're good snapshots of what MESA is. And so like for you as yourself, or like as you're talking to administrators in your school, if you've never had MESA in your school before, those are good snapshots to hand out to people. So please feel free to grab whatever is out there. It's just those or whatever we have had left. And so please feel free to use those, even though the data is a year old. As far as like statistics go, it's a really good snapshot of what MESA is. Okay. We'll also be going over responsibilities, guidelines, and just information in there. The first thing I want to note is one term that's going to come up frequently is this is kind of how we monitor success or activity as a MESA program. So within the MESA program, you're going to hear today lots of things that MESA does. There is lots of things that MESA does. At the local level, that's you as a school. At the regional level, that's all the schools in your area. And at the statewide level, any available programs or things that you do as a state. It is up to you as an advisor to determine your style for your MESA program. What works best for you, what works in your format, etc. We have determined base minimum performance of what is considered an active MESA program, and that is what we consider performance watch. With that being said, this is the minimum activity that you need to keep a MESA program. We would prefer that you do more activity than this, as it does directly relate to the quality of your program, as well as to your students' loyalty award. But to keep a MESA program at your school site, you need to at least have these minimum things. You need to have at least 20 students, with the exception that we have started taking on rural schools as a program model. And so with that being said, you have an individualized amount that you have negotiated with your coordinator. Say for instance, we've taken on Escalante Mid-High School. I think is the Escalante teacher here? They came on last year. They're a really small school. I don't think they even have 20 in their whole school. So in their high school. So, we've allowed them to come less, but they're on with the caveat, like, obviously their transportation is cheaper. They come in a car or they come in a bus for things. So for the most part, majority of our programs fall into the requirement of 20 students. You need to have at least 15 structured meetings, 1 leadership, 1 participation in one of our MESA competitions, complete 1 parent activity, 1 service learning, a community service activity, attend 3 workshop speaker build experiences, complete your MOU, come to 1 meeting, which you've already met that requirement, coming here, and just attend and do this stuff in contact with your coordinator as needed. With that being said, just with the amount of things that your coordinator provides, that happens statewide, that is available online, all of these can be met fairly simply with just what we're providing, not even you having to think of anything on your own. So there is lots of possibilities to meet this, but those are the minimums for the entire year. Okay. The other thing of note is your MOU. If you have not seen a copy of your MOU, there's a sample online. You can get with your coordinator for a signed copy if you would like that, especially if you're brand new. That is our responsibility, our contract with your school district. So that outlines the responsibilities of all parties. What your school district has agreed to have a MESA program, what we have agreed to as MESA. Essentially the important things, it does outline that they should pay you a minimum stipend. It does outline that they should be allowing you up to 9 days of sub-leave. It does outline that they will pay for one field trip for you transportation-wise. Those are the importance. Rest, it kind of outlines the responsibilities, but in the case that you need help with enforcement of the memorandum of understanding, please work with your regional coordinator, and if you be calling in statewide staff, because it's really important that as teachers, you are also given that. So if you're given a hard time about, and we try to work with that, like we understand there's a lot of constraints. You don't have subs for your district, this and that, whatnot, so we try to schedule things with all those constraints in mind. But if you're having a really hard time about getting paid or the district just not being very friendly with you, we can help to try to mitigate that as their responsibility of having a MESA program. The other things to note is your advisor contract, which if you have not already completed that, your coordinator will have you do that, likely in your regional meeting. And then also the transportation agreement. Transportation, I'm saying right now, is the biggest pain in the neck for anything you're gonna do with MESA, anything we're gonna do. Transportation right now is really hard. I'm sure you guys probably already know this if you've been in your school district. Getting a bus is like miracles in some situations. So there will be situations where we ask to bus pool just because costs have gotten so extreme. There's a transportation agreement we have in place, kind of outlining our policies and their policies. It's really important that you understand your transportation policies at your school about reserving the bus, knowing the rates, like how to get the invoices so we can pay it. There's a lot of instances where we ask our schools to bus pool with each other just because costs have gotten so extreme. So that transportation is really important. So I'm going to go over a general structure of a MESA meeting. I'm also saying this, general disclaimer for everything, your MESA program is your own. So depending upon what your school day looks like, we understand that there's kind of a guide, but there's not a specific cookie cutter model of what every MESA meeting should look like, because some of you all on a 4-day week, some of you all on a 5-day week, some of you guys have activity periods, some of you guys have all Friday as an activity period, some of you have lunchtime, some of you have after school. So whatever that looks like, keep that in mind about what I'm saying and how that format works, how that translates to your format that you have available at your school. So school meetings can occur whenever you can fit in. Some schools do have an established MESA class. It's not required to have a MESA class. We are on the, we do have a STARS code within PD if you have an elective. If you are thinking about a MESA class, full disclaimer, you need to get with your regional coordinator because we need to watch what is termed MESA. So if there's a MESA class at your school, we need to know about it, just because it can be titled a MESA class and it be done something totally different. Like in the past, schools have gone on and said, we're doing a MESA class, and it's a dumping ground for like truancy. That's not MESA. And so it really needs to make sure that it is followed and an actual curriculum is followed that aligns with the MESA model. So kind of keeping that in mind. Also, MESA is non-exclusive. So if you have a MESA class, great, that is a great opportunity to take care of most of your MESA business, but MESA as a model is non-exclusive, meaning if a kid can't get in your class, that doesn't mean they can't be in MESA. No matter, even if you have a class, it still needs to be available as a lunchtime, after school, before school option for schools that don't have the opportunity to take your class. Like a lot of times you're an 8th grade science teacher, and it's only available to 8th grade science kids. Well, what about your 6th grade, your 7th grade, your other kids that may not have the opportunity to take your class? There still needs to be an option for that. And that is the reason for stipend. The other reason, if you just do it as a class only, your administrators will definitely say, then why are we paying them extra? This is part of their school day. So that's also twofold the reason to be non-discriminatory, but also to allow the full use of the MESA program. Okay? Meetings are just important to kind of keep up, have your students know what's going on. If you don't utilize these times, guaranteed your students will not know what is going on. Big suggestion, find a MESA bulletin board, especially if you don't see your kids every day. This is a great place to put up notes, get them in the habit of checking a centralized location for flyers on events, signups for events, what's going on, reminders about the next meeting, etc. So at a MESA meeting, what happens? Typically within a MESA meeting, taking care of any paperwork needs. So making sure that all the required forms are completed, whatever business for whatever you may have coming up, talking about any activities that you have in plan coming up, planning for competitions, using this time to prepare for events, learning about things. You can use it to do team building, bringing in speakers, depending upon the time that you have, maybe a service learning. But essentially during a MESA meeting, you should have 3 main components. Take care of some sort of business, learning something, and then planning something, even if it's minimum planning for the next meeting. So within student paperwork, the one form that is required of all of our students within the MESA program is the A0. You may or may not have heard that. Again, we number all of our forms, so that's the MESA language. So the A0 is a form that is a combined parent permission form, as well as a general release for New Mexico MESA. The easiest way to do this, we have made it online. You go to students, forms, the A0, and they can do it online. Completely easy. It's done. We do have online English and Spanish versions. We also have paper versions, but at some point those paper versions still have to be converted and entered. So either you will be responsible for entry, or you will be working with your regional coordinator to help get those entered. But all students need to eventually be entered electronically. So whatever works for your school. I know sometimes it's like, we're just not getting them to do it online. Cool. Do the hard copy, but at some point just know that that conversion needs to happen, okay? The A3 is another form that we use. It's good. It's a blanket disclaimer for going on field trips. So if you are planning on taking a field trip, they should also do an A3 form. Again, there is an online version, there is a paper version. The difference with that, collect the paper version, we don't need to have it. That's for you to keep. It is the release form when you go on trips. I also want to make note of our SIFT application, just another number, but only for high schools. And then again, remembering all school-based trips. Those are the MESA things, but then please be familiar with whatever requirements that your school district may have or your school may have. So when you're doing a trip, if you have never taken students off campus or worked on field trips, go back, get familiar with how to do that. Oftentimes you have requirements of when you have to request leave, when you have to request buses. If it's overnight, it may require board approval, that may require a month out, you need to turn in an agenda. Whatever form your school may require. Maybe they require an extra activity form. Maybe my son requires them to complete an online class if they want to participate in activities. Whatever your school requires, make sure that is also done on top of the MESA paperwork. So I couldn't even list all the possibilities between all our school districts, but make sure that you know what is required, because it is really heartbreaking to have students be, we're going on this great trip, and then never mind, you can't do that. You have to give a 2-week notice with your board or whatever needs to happen. And that is unfortunate because they will uphold, and that's a really bad situation for your parents, for your students, and for all involved. The next thing, talking about education, STEM education. So we again, what's MESA? Any enrichment. STEM is everywhere. So there's a lot of learning opportunities everywhere. We are providing lots of resources online, between our YouTube channel, between what we have, to have activities for you. On our website, besides our YouTube videos, we do have a section that just has resources. It has 30-minute little MESA printable activities that you can do. We have lots of stuff available online. We're always sending you things. Our central interregional coordinator, Ms. Kim, she does a great weekly email that she sends out to her teachers and to the staff, which I believe they all forward out to their teachers. So there's a lot of possibilities that we are sending you for what constitutes STEM education. In general, just having them learn to do some fun stuff. Use that to whatever your forte and your preference may be. You know, if you have an interest in this area, your kids have a particular interest, use it that way. So just basically use this time to supplement with doing activities that you don't have time in the classroom to do. Also keep in mind that by being a MESA teacher, you are given an activity award, or not activity award, MESA, I can't think of the word right now in my brain. You're given an activity check for your number of students that you have in your program, and that's to help with supplies. Beyond that, I know every single one of our regional coordinators is committed to helping you with resources. So you have your regional meetings tomorrow. Either you will probably likely get a stash of things, you will get information. If you have a particular idea for something, they will help you make it happen, and they will help fund it, and they'll help get you supplies. That's what we're here for as an organization, so don't use that as a deterrent. If you're we want to do this volcano activity, or we want to do this engineering, this bridge build, whatever it may be, they can help you with all of that. Again, these are just some ideas for student activities, not necessarily all-inclusive, but hands-on is always good, because that's what's going to keep kids coming back, the reality, right? They want something fun. As we get closer, we get into our competitions, you're starting to prep for those. Activities that relate to those are always great. Yeah, just fun things for kids. You guys are expert teachers. You guys know what kind of motivates your students. Use the time to be able to make this a fun learning environment for your students. Again, one skill that is highly underrated than a lot of things, but we use a lot during MESA, is team building, which I'm sure you guys already know this, the team dynamics. All of our competitions that we do, anything we come together is based on a team. As you guys well know, the best team is not necessarily the besties or the couple or whatever works together. You're trying to work and find the dynamics of who works well together in a certain type of environment. So by doing team building activities in your MESA time, especially if you don't know your students, it does help to get an idea of who your leaders may be, who can work well together, their different communication styles. So when you're building your MESA teams, you know how best to do that so that it is a favorable environment for competitions, for workshops, for programs that we have. You don't want to pair two kids up that just really just don't work well together, you know, or that aren't going to accomplish anything when they go places. Yeah, and then also again, these are students that have a place of belonging within MESA, so you want them to feel like this is their new home. We've had some similarities. I know at a school, dynamics are everywhere. You know, you have your sports kids, you have your whatever kids. Hopefully our MESA kids are all the kids, but having this be a place for them, that they can feel included and welcome, and that this is their home, that they feel a belonging within the MESA team. They feel pride in the MESA program. Service learning, this is our community service. It just has a fancy title of service learning. It is a big cornerstone of our MESA programs. So as part within your minimum requirements, you're required to at least do one. With that being said, especially if you're trying to get your students activity points, loyalty points, and just because it's a cool thing to do. You know, I suggest more than one so all of your students have an opportunity to participate. Now, service learning can do as many as you like. They can be local, they can be big. We do offer a statewide kind of virtual one if you want to jump in on that time frame. But it's an essential part of our MESA program that we continue to give back to the communities that we serve. That's part of our model that has worked really well for us, that keeps funders coming in, is that we really work within the communities that we're in and give back to those communities that house our MESA programs. Guest speakers, again, the only one disclaimer on this that I will say is if you're having anybody come on campus, again, make sure that you understand your school regulations for bringing anybody on campus. If that's the case, like they may have to do a background check, like I think APS requires a volunteer background check if you're an APS, or you know, whatever that may look like if anybody is coming on. We also have the capacity for Zoom. So if you need help with like a Zoom account or a Zoom password, all of your regional coordinators, we have professional Zoom accounts, so they can help set something up for you if that works. Maybe you're able to Zoom in somebody really cool. Maybe one of your kids has an aunt that's like a NASA astronaut or something. I don't know, but maybe that is, and you want to come talk to your kids. We can help maybe facilitate that if needed. But you also have a lot of resources within your parents or your contacts that you have within MESA. So, you know, any kind of STEM profession, especially as you're getting ready for competition. I use this example. I myself am not only MESA lifer, MESA staffer, but I'm now a MESA mom. So my kiddo is an 8th grader, and me being MESA life, when it comes down to the building stuff, I'm not about that life. So, you know, working with the parents, that this is their thing, like this is their expertise. This is, you know, can give direction, but I myself don't have lots of tools. So, you know, pulling in parents that can help with some of these builds, that can help with some of these, wherever their skill and their expertise level may be, try to utilize all the different resources that you have available. So again, just generally things you can do for your MESA meeting time. I'm going to mention here in a second, our database, our tracking system is ThinkWith. Again, everything that we do, we have a data collection system. I'll go over that here and later on in the presentation, but just keep in mind that everything you do does need to be tracked. So organization is not your thing. Find somebody to help you be organized, because you will be asked to track all of your attendance and just kind of keep record, because we cannot say, get those minimum requirements of MESA. If you don't have any tracking, it looks like you have done absolutely nothing for the year, and so we're not able to continue a MESA program if it's not showing anything on record to either your administration or to us. So record keeping and organization is important. So do it yourself, ask teachers, colleagues, friends for help. A great way is if you have student officers. Maybe you have some students that are really organized in that way. They can help you with some of that, like planning events, collecting sign-ins, taking advantage of your student officers. Other things is just to create a routine. The most successful meetings that I have seen over all the years is when something is consistent. Meeting like Mesa Mondays at lunch, whatever that may look like. Wednesdays and after school. If you're flip-flopping your meeting times around, your kids are not gonna know when you're meeting. Like, if you're meeting, you say you're gonna meet every week and you start canceling, and then it's like you meet every 3 weeks and you're like, oh no, you're meeting again in a month, we're gonna lose attendance fast. So you need to stay consistent, that's the request, just stay consistent. So your teachers know, your students know what to expect, especially if there's other logistics involved, like you're arranging lunches, or your kids have, and you don't see your kids every day especially, it's important to have that consistency, which is again, that bulletin board is helpful for students and everyone to be on the same page for everything. Again, if you have a school that is really big, we have some pretty large programs. Another thing is sometimes we have, if you have different lunches, for instance, and you have multiple teachers, Mesa meetings have been split, like 8th grade, 7th grade, if you have the teachers and you have the lunches. So again, whatever works for you, just being consistent. The A0, so there is not a deadline to stop recruiting for Mesa. So you can recruit those 20 all year. The deadline, the hard deadline, and it is in that little sheet that was given in there about statewide dates, October 13th. That number might be a little bit off. That is the deadline, that is the number that we use for like our start of the year numbers, and that's how we base your activity check. So that is the suggested time to have your 20, because that means, or at least the more students that you can have by that October deadline, that will increase your activity check. But you can continue to recruit all year. So the next thing I'm going to go into is parent meeting. We are trying to be better, even as a state, about really trying to incorporate parent involvement. And by parent, that means parent, guardian, family, etc., all of the above. But one of our requirements for Mesa is that you have at least one parent activity. So oftentimes that is taken either like as an orientation night, especially if you're a new program, a new teacher, that is suggested, like having a night for them to come meet you, talk about Mesa. Your coordinator can also help with this, maybe ask them, for things, trying to get recruitment of your students, letting them know what Mesa is, especially if you've never had it at your school. Another type is, once you're another way to get this requirement in, if you had a program for a while, or maybe even as a spring semester check-in, I've seen just like a Mesa check-in during parent-teacher conferences, having them come in. That also constitutes just so that parents can have an opportunity to come check in with you about Mesa. But it's one, to keep them informed, having them sign their forms, letting them know what they're agreeing to. And also this is an opportunity for you to be able to maybe collect resources for your program, like how they can help you, maybe what they would like to see within Mesa. Communication is extremely, extremely important with your parents, with your administration, and with your regional coordinator. So your Mesa program will not succeed if you do not have that communication. The best way that I've seen to eliminate parent complaints is to be communicative with your parents and follow through with your parents. You know about events by being communicative with your regional coordinators or with your New Mexico Mesa staff. And of course, the worst case scenario is we do not want a Mesa program to not succeed. It's because of lack of administration communication, like busing permission. The friendly you are with people at school, like your registrars, your transportation people, the easier it will make your life as a Mesa teacher. Grade checks. There's not an official grade check requirement for Mesa. I believe we have a form though that's helpful if you want to use that, but it is very highly suggested that you follow whatever requirement you have at your school. Like to participate in extracurricular activities, is there a certain requirement? We are also trying to reach kids that are at promise. So we don't want to discourage kids. First disclaimer, Mesa is not exclusively for high-performing students. It is geared towards students to get them interested in these STEM careers. So these are all students that just may have an interest, that pique an interest, and try to, cultivate that interest into being participatory within Mesa. So with that, that can be an incentive. Like they can still be on site and participate in Mesa, but maybe they don't get to go on field trips if they don't have that 2.0 or whatever is required by your school. That's an incentive maybe for them to keep their grades up to be able to do the fun parts about Mesa. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they can't participate in the learning stuff, because that's what we're there for. We're trying to help with that, with getting their grades up. The other thing is in high school advisors, there's a little bit more of a added incentive is once we get into loyalty award. Loyalty award is our, it's not a scholarship, it's a participatory award that seniors are eligible for once they graduate. And there is, you do get credit for your different STEM courses that you take. So again, trying to make sure they're in that direction of taking that advanced coursework to maximize not only just their own academic performance, but also for that loyalty award, okay? But this can also be your way of justifying, you have some backing to take students out of school. I also believe the minimum for the loyalty award is a 2.8. So that's more for seniors, but that's kind of, use whatever you need at your school. I've said this, but it's very, very, very important. Communicate with your administration, making sure that they know what's going on. Friendly administration helps our programs. Communicate with them, letting them know, what's going on. Make sure they know about the MESA requirements. If you need assistance with some of this administrative liaising, whatever the word may be, your coordinators or the MESA staff can also help with that. If there is something that is problematic that is keeping you from doing the MESA program, just because we want to make sure it succeeds. Fundraising, I want to make a note on this. It is not required to fundraise. But I also say that, MESA, we try to provide whatever we can. So when you come to events, we'll do the busing and things like that, and we'll let you know very clear up front as to what's covered for certain things. But just by nature, depending on where your school is at, there might be some where you will need to do some fundraising if you want to take full advantage of our program. Like one thing that we just can't afford within MESA, like for our MESA Day, is lodging. So if you're really far and overnight lodging, you may need to fundraise for that, just because the reality is we just can't afford that for the entire state. But if you want to come up, have a really good event, maybe that's what you're fundraising for. Maybe you want to do, MESA will pay the entrance fees for your end of the year field trip, but you want to take them to Hinkle Family Fun Center and do all this other stuff, maybe that's what you fundraise for, is those little additional add-ons. The one thing that is not allowed within fundraising is that we don't collect dues. We don't ever want to make MESA, again, it's non-discriminatory, so it cannot be a hard requirement for students to participate in MESA because they can't afford it, no pay to play. So no dues. If you want to have something else, maybe a punch card that is similar to dues, then that's great, but it cannot be actual dues. Students do not have to pay to be part of our program. Field experiences and workshops. Basically that's field trip, but it just is a fancier, more official title. But again, familiarize yourself with getting students off campus. This is extremely, extremely important. And then all of the events that we're doing regionally, I already know the regional plans, because that's what I'm giving you statewide. The opportunities that are out there will help meet those minimum requirements. But within every school should have the opportunity, if you go with your regional coordinator and you plan accordingly, to do some sort of an additional something of your choice. So just get with your coordinator to plan that and make that happen. Whether it's a tie-on to one of our statewide events, like MESA's already putting the $2,000 bill for your bus, maybe you as your field trip, add on an extra day and do something else, with them, or, whatever that may look like. But we try to give opportunities for different workshops and experiences throughout the year. And that's the fun part about MESA. If you ask my kid, that's what he likes to go to. So you're creating all the spreads, they can all go on the field trip together. So that's a good bonus. So with that being said, I'm going to jump into some paperwork. Any questions so far? Looking around. No one is looking freaking out yet. Getting into paperwork, I've already mentioned it, the A0. This is the one requirement at the start of every year, your A0 form. So suggested either at a MESA meeting time and getting everybody in, if you have access to a computer lab, getting them to do the form, or again, sending out the paper form, whatever works best. If you have a communication, like a text communication system, or Remind, or whatever those, I'm thinking of the different ones, Meetup, or whatever those are, you can send out the link directly to parents to sign up and do it that way. If you use Google Classroom, set up even a Google Classroom for your MESA time, and have all the links there for them to complete. Whatever kind of works for your format, but get those in even since now. Deadline for the initial, yes.
Yeah. About transplant?
Yeah, again, enrollment is open, they can complete any time, but for your activity check, it's that October 13th, I keep saying, yes.
So that's the 80 and 83, October 13th?
Yes, and that is what we base off your number off of. But if you have a kid that wants to join November 5th, have them do an A0 and an A3, because they're like, you're doing a field trip in December, that's really awesome, they can join December 1st, or whatever you require. They have to do the paperwork before they go on trips. Before they can do anything Mesa, they have to do that paperwork. So we have some very upcoming fast workshops happening, like in the north, we have our STEM Showdown. Southwest, we have our AMP conference, we'll have our Mesa Buddies kicking off. So if you're planning to do any of those, they need to do all those forms before they can participate in anything. So that's just, yes?
Is there any way to translate those forms in language other than Spanish?
We can try. Get with your coordinator and we'll see. We just had Spanish translators, so that's what we have, but we can try it. We can work together, make that happen.
Those forms are already on Spanish.
Yeah, but in another language besides Spanish, we can work to make that happen if we need to.
You mentioned the AMP conference.
I'll go over, so I'm jumping ahead. This afternoon when I go into my session, my general, I'll talk about general activities with everybody, and I'll review that like date thing that I have in your book. That's for later on. Don't throw too much at you. But again, I just do that because that's October. So like for instance, that's October 5th. So again, backtracking. The event is October 5th. You need to reserve a bus at least a month out. You need to get parent permission forms out, because it could, that's like, you need to have, those students need to be in Mesa like in the next week, 2 weeks, so you know what to deal with. So those are those kind of like backtracking. Like if you're, for our Mesa Day event, that's our biggie. We'll have a deadline of like a month out, and April 1st, and again, if they want to participate in Mesa Day, they have to at least have all their forms turned in by April 1st to participate in that program. So this is what we call, like, to be an official Mesa student, you need these forms in to be able to go to anything. So, but again, rolling enrollment. So you have a kid that wants to jump in May, great, get them in. But the activity check deadline, the different event deadlines all require the A0s at different times. And again, we just kind of say a student is not a Mesa member without these forms. Just getting them in that habit. It's a liability thing for us. It's like our general release, your general release. It's helpful. Paperwork 2. Get in the habit of creating an attendance sheet for everything. So whatever system works for you, great. We have an online tracking tool. It's just basically like a grade book. And that is called ThinkWave. And that is where everything will have to be put in. Whether you like to put directly into ThinkWave, if you're techie like that, cool beans. If you're not, you have a paper notebook, and you just keep this paper notebook, and then you take time to data entry, great too. Whichever way, keep records and keep track of those records because it is important. It is important for all Mesa teachers. High school, it's like the immediate reward is the loyalty award, but years since 6th grade count. So I will tell you that if you are a 6th grade teacher and not tracking, you are doing your students a big disservice because they are missing out on possibly a lot of points and activity points by not having those activities recorded for all of their time within Mesa. That also helps to justify our funding. That also helps to justify your stipend and our agreement with the schools. Because this does happen, right? We get asked, our Mesa program doesn't look like it's doing anything. We can say, look at all the great things that you're doing. We share this with your legislators. We share this with funders. This is how we track. Yes?
I teach at a middle school, but if they do the A0 in middle school, is it carried over?
No, the A0s have to be done each year. So it's each year, because each year we collect new data, and it's each year. So there's the A0 form, looks like parent information, and like updated updated emails, and also just per our data requirements, it's each year. So that helps to do like our current Mesa students. Yes?
So our school and high school are the same
Mm-hmm.
building. So does you guys have one campus or both?
So on the AO, I'm not sure. So in the system, when you do your AO, it's a pull down to select your school. More than likely, even though you're a small school that's together, it's probably I think you're Laguna, right? So it'll be like Laguna Middle and Laguna High. Just because like when you do competitions, you have your middle school division and your high division. So you may do things together, but you are considered two separate programs for purposes. So you would have your middle school students, 6th, 7th, 8th, do the middle school form, your 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, do the high school form.
We have a middle school and we have a junior high academy, which is at the high school.
Okay, so work with your coordinator to see how to differentiate them out, but it's the grade levels. Because so again, for like Mesa competition, if you're a junior high, you can have 9th through 12 participating in the high school. If you have 9th graders or even 8th graders that are at the high school, they still have to participate in the high school division because majority of their team is high school. So get with your coordinator on those specific situations, but if you are a combined middle school, high school program, you likely have two records, a middle school record and a high school record. Okay. So, and again, suggested to keep a hard copy, even if you like to enter direct, just take a still picture or something, screenshot, just so that you have it. Worst case scenario, so you have for your own personal records, I would always keep that. And then again, training, we're gonna briefly touch on ThinkWave. There is a session here on ThinkWave, but not that deep. So if you wanna use the time to do another session and your coordinator can reinforce, whatever, but if you really love data and that's your jam, come to the session here, whatever is your preference. But we'll make sure that you get trained on that ThinkWave system to enter data. Yes?
So just to clarify, the A0, A3 forms, can we enter all that information in the ThinkWave?
So your A0 and your A3 forms, you complete those on our website.
Okay.
So what happens is you enter, all the forms are on our website, like the back end stuff that happens. You enter the forms onto our website because that's where we store all of our data. So it's all collected there. And then especially at the start of the year, we'll do periodic like batches over into the ThinkWave system, so to populate your gradebook. So like we'll do those once a week at the start of the school year. So like if you enter your kid in on Monday, it's not automatically gonna pop into your gradebook until probably like Thursday, if that's the batch date. It'll get put into your gradebook to be able to populate. So at the start of the year, we have two systems that we have to talk to each other. But the ThinkWave is where we do like once they're in the gradebook, that's where you can mark attendance and tracking of that sort.
That would be on the New Mexico Mesa website?
Yes, nmmesa.org houses all of our forms. There's also a link to a ThinkWave portal where you will get a login for that separately, but don't enter any forms or students directly into ThinkWave. I don't know if you even have the capability to do that. Coordinators can. But so once you put them into the website, they'll get merged over and synced into your gradebook. So we will help to populate that gradebook. And your coordinators are like masters of data. They're amazing. They work really hard to try to make sure that they're accurate. So if you see a duplicate, you're not finding a student, you have a student transfer, like maybe they were at one, like I'm in Las Vegas, so you have a student at West Las Vegas, now they come over to Memorial, my kid. Maybe you need to transfer over a file, so that make sure that they get counted for all their years. You can work with your coordinator on all those specific details and they'll make sure that your gradebook is accurate. The other thing that I want to mention is our loyalty awards. So for our high school teachers, a show of hands, how many are high school in here? Okay, so good batch. So by the time your students graduate, when they're seniors, they're eligible for up to $1,000 in our loyalty award. We call it a loyalty award. It is not a scholarship because it is a check cut directly to the student for their participation within Mesa to be used for educational expenses. So that word disclaimer. But, so it's paid direct to the kid, but they earn that by all of their participation within Mesa. So if they go to a meeting, it's $1 or whatever, whatever the formula is. Everything translates to activity points, everything translates to dollars. So it all helps to build up to this dollar amount that they can earn by the time that they graduate. Through activity participation, other things that go into loyalty award are academic performance, like they do get credit for additional STEM classes they're taking, they do get credit for additional AP, dual enrollment classes that they're taking, they do get enrollment for higher ACT, higher GPAs, trying to reward incentives there. But ultimately, the biggest indicator for a loyalty award is activity participation. With that being said, within Mesa, we did have some data switches. We had a year where our database crashed, and so we were in like a gradebook system. And then we tried a new system, and that didn't work. So we had some data glitches within Mesa the past, not last year inclusive, but prior to that. Plus COVID, plus you tie in less activity at schools. So what that resulted in, long story short, is there may be some data gaps for some of your students, especially like you have a senior. Within Mesa, we collected all hard copies and Excel grade books and everything during that time, but 100% transparency, not all teachers turn in grade books during that time. So we do have students that received 0 credit for years with Mesa because nothing was submitted to the coordinator for tracking. So that's big. So you do have some students with lawyer activity points. We're working on them up. We're trying to get them back in. So if you do have a special situation, say you're coming in, you're a high school teacher, you have something that it really affected this kid, the best thing I would say is communicate with your coordinator and plan early to maybe we'll try to figure out something to try to mitigate for that. You know, we never want to penalize the student, but there was some big data gap years. With that being said, we now have ThinkWave up and active. We've had it up and active for, I think this is our 2nd or 3rd year going. It is extremely important. I think maybe some long-term advisors also got in the habit of not tracking because they didn't have a system for a minute. But so they did it. Like last year, we have quite a handful of students that did 0 activity entry last year. And so they were nothing. And that was, coordinators were offering to input activities. You know, we had the option and all of the stuff systems were up and running. But if they're not input into the system, we have some schools on performance watch simply for not getting anything into our database. So that is where those responsibilities fall in. Okay, so we'll own up to our side, we'll try to help as much as possible. Our coordinators will also work as much as possible to try to mitigate. If there's a situation that we don't know about, we can't help unless we know about it. So just be communicative about that with us and we'll try to get that fixed. Yes?
There has to be a high school for them to go to do the high school loyalty. I think they do it in junior high, but there's not a high school option, then.
So most of our programs, most of our programs, when we pick a school, that is one thing when we're bringing on new schools, the goal is to have them a feeder school. If they don't have a feeder school, then they're not eligible for an award. If you're in a specific situation like that, if I can ask, what school do you go to?
Chief Manoli, so it's Gallup.
Okay, so like we have programs like Mora was on like a timeout there for a minute, but hopefully getting them back up. So maybe that is the long-term plan, is to feed into Mora. So getting with your coordinator on that so that it actually comes to fruition. But say that they're program 6, 7, and 8, maybe there's not a program in 9th grade, but we're able to bring it back their sophomore year, their records still follow them. And they're still able to get that credit. Yes?
So if they don't have a high school feeder school, would they still not be eligible for the things they did during middle school?
Not unless they're able to be paid out in high school. Like exceptions, these are exceptions via appeal. We've had like a program disappear because like Performance Watch. They were already juniors and maybe they lost the program their senior year. If they've already amassed enough points and eligibility and, you know, we made them eligible at that point. You know, we can't give credit for things that just aren't done, you know, but those are all exception-based programs that you would have to submit an official appeal for. But what middle school do you go to? Okay. They're working on trying to get a program in Saturday. So whenever we bring, there's a method to our madness when we bring on it. That's part of allowing a program in, is the hope of that there's a high school. That's a very rare exception, and probably you got in on some kind of graces with the hope of a build. Yeah, okay. Yeah. More than likely, that is not our ideal situation, that there is not a high school. So that is like, so when we're bringing on schools, that's something we look at. Like, is there a high school program to feed into for that? And that's, again, the benefits of MESA are 6th to 12th grade. There's lots of benefits to MESA, but like the college admittance, a lot of the programs that we do are really key in high school. That, again, that is the ultimate goal. So just, we're probably the long-term goal is to get them there. Okay. Any questions? Yes.
So, all the loyalty awards, documented and ThinkWave.
Yes, so the process for loyalty award is you just do all your gradebook stuff. You don't have to do anything extra, just do all your gradebook stuff. You get them in, your coordinators will work with you to get student transcripts for your high school seniors. They do all the entry of all the grade stuff, they just might need to help facilitate that transcript collection. And if your gradebook's up to date, we pull the data on the back end. We calculate out the magic number, we calculate everything, and we just say, these are your eligible students. So these are, and then from there, the students have to turn in paperwork to actually get dollars, but like federal paperwork to get money from this. But there's nothing extra that they have to do except keeping up your grade book and helping to facilitate those transcripts as a high school teacher. And your coordinator will work with you on those. So as long as your grade book is current, As long as all the data is in there, we can pull it and do what we need to with it. The same is, we had a consortium with New Mexico Tech. Hopefully still continues because they changed administrators, but we were with Mesa kids these last 2 years, had automatic acceptance into New Mexico Tech and automatic scholarship into New Mexico Tech. The caveat was we pulled data from ThinkWave. So if they were not a ThinkWave, we didn't get those transcripts, they had no activity participation, they might not have received that because they weren't in our system for us to tell tech that these were our active Mesa kids. So that's also why just data is really important. As we're working, like there's opportunities that pop up all the time. Maybe it's 1 year, maybe it's 2 years with the different universities. If there's a scholarship that's available, we can pull up data and get that on your behalf. That's what that A0 allows us to do, but we need to do that with data. Now just moving on, competition preparation. So talk about kind of the back end, like the paperwork requirements, the handbook stuff, the meeting. Cornerstones of our MESA program, our MESA Day and our MESA USA. We'll be going over those. Well, you should have received actually your MESA Day handbook in your packet. We're not going to go into that in this session. I'll talk about it in the next session. A lot of the workshops at this conference are going to help to prepare for those different competitions. But using your MESA meeting time, that is responsibilities to help prepare for competition. You're going through the handbook. Read the handbooks, please. Underline, exclamation, bold. Make sure you are aware of the requirements. All of our competitions have prepared responsibilities. You cannot just show up and go. Specifically this year, we did some changes, so if you are a veteran popping in, all of them, some preparation there. So as we are under more pressure to be accountable for our funding and having a deliverable, our competitions are statewide academic competitions. So as such, keeping the caliber of academic competitions, there is prep work involved. So just make sure to follow in that. And it really stinks to have kids show up and they're like, we didn't even know what the event was, we just got on the bus. And then that's something that we see, and that's what we, with our changes to our events, to avoid that happening. It's not fair to your kids, or to us, it's a lot of money to get them there, busing, transportation, facilities, if all parties involved are somewhat prepared to participate. So like either the handbooks or all of our website, so right now during the break, like when we switch sessions, go to NMASA.org, you go to events, this might be a slide later, but I'll jump ahead, events, upcoming events. Every single event has their own little event site. You can find all the requirements for that program on that particular event site. I did kind of, the catch-alls, I did kind of make one sheet that I kind of gave you as like a cheat sheet, as a start cheat sheet, but that modifies throughout the year. But again, if you want to participate in something, make sure you follow the requirements for deadlines, for check-ins, for things like that. But like in years, say we had a trebuchet a couple of years ago. Your responsibility as an advisor, you want them to participate, get them the resources they need to help them build a trebuchet to participate, so that they can come and they can participate in the event, So that is your responsibility. You may not be a trebuchet builder. I myself was not a trebuchet parent, but the woodshop teacher was. And so they came and helped our kids, kind of build and stuff like that. So you can help facilitate some of those connections, okay? The other things are, again, that teamwork dynamic, sampling out who works well together. You as an advisor responsible for all the registration for your teams, for helping with your regional coordinator, transportation to get them there. So those are all responsibilities of a teacher, okay? Also for performance watch. The three main competitions that we do within MESA are your regional rally, which is open participation. Everyone has the opportunity to participate, come one, come all. That's regionally done. That happens in the fall. We have our MESA Day and our MESA USA that this year it is happening on the same day, April 30th. We have 2 tracks, MESA Day, MESA USA. So those are the 3 options that you have per performance watch. You need to participate in one of those. So the regional rally is the easiest, most open entry to participate. The others have requirements to participate, like prep things, inspection, that sort of thing. But that's our statewide events, our MESA Day and our MESA USA. So again, within preparing for competitions, handbook, knowing the events, preparing your teams, selecting your teams, registration, that sort of thing all falls within that. Okay. Calendar and updates. Trying to think of what I've done this last week. I did go up and I updated all of the events. I want to say there is on our website a place, events, statewide events. It does link to a calendar. So we put like our major statewide dates. That calendar is not inclusive of everything Mesa because it would be very jumbled calendar, but it does have like main statewide things, main statewide deadlines. In your little handbook, you guys got a nice nifty little planner. You can start using that as your Mesa all things guidebook, whatever your method of organization is. And I do want to stress, you're going to hear about a lot of possible events, a lot of things you can do over these next 2 days, and you are going to need to prioritize, or you will make yourself go crazy. It's doable, but you might go a little bit nuts. I'm just saying. We have a lot of offerings, and we do that to cater to all of the different types of programs that we have, all the different levels that we have, all the different interests that we have. So one program may just not be for you. That's cool. If you're not able to meet those requirements of that program, it's probably not the program for you. Do another something that maybe works best for you and your program and what your capacity and what your commitment can be. We do ask that, like we're getting to be more dual agreement, we're providing a service, we're providing a program, we ask that you meet the commitments of that program. So just open transparency. If you're not able to meet that requirement, then that's fine. Just again, try not to take resources or try not to do that if that's just not the program for you or for your level, for your interest level, for your availability. Okay. But again, all statewide events will be done all through the Mesa event site. Some regional coordinators are better than others, but there's also the capacity to do all of their events on their website either. So that's always the main go-to for registration and for information on things. Different other, between activities and resources, the stuff you're going to be given, the stuff your coordinator will work with you on, using your activity checks. We also do have an option as a Mesa program. So say your program has eligible for $350 because that's the number of profiles you have in, that is your activity check amount. You'll work with your coordinator, you can do one of two things. You get a check mailed to you to deposit into your school Mesa account. You follow their fiscal procedures. You do with it as you'd like. Maybe it rolls over, maybe it doesn't. Once you get the check, it's out of our hands, it's done with. We have had some issues with accessibility to those accounts and being able to use them as intended, like purchase orders or spending for actual supplies, whatever that may look like. The other option is, you're like, hey, well, maybe it works better. We have a corporate Amazon account. Your coordinator will work with you to set up a Mesa Amazon account, and then you just order. And it gets shipped directly to your house, and you just gets approved, and it's just out of your total, out of your $350, and you can buy supplies as need be throughout the year. Maybe there's something else that you're planning to use that for, and you can just work with your coordinator. But those are really our two streamlined options: our check to you on behalf of your program to use through your school account, to Amazon shopping. So whatever that works best for you and how you intend to use that additional activity funds, you set that up with your coordinator. Okay. The other thing I want to make a note about resources online. I know in the last few days there's been a couple of requests, and if you're in this room, I apologize. I've just been busy planning for this, but there is, we have a bunch of curriculum guides online, a bunch of activity guides. For the curriculum guide, you do need to sign up. You just do like a little official waiver, and I'll send you a password because they're password protected. And you're able to access the curriculum, you're able to access our online resources, our YouTube, all the stuff I mentioned. So there's lots of things available. Disclaimer on our curriculum. That's what you sign up and you agree to. Anything that we do put on our curriculum page is owned by Mesa. So like again, altering, using the Mesa name for things, it does need to get permission. So you're signing like, I'm an official Mesa advisor, and therefore Mesa use. So it's not like, hey, I have this great curriculum, all my teacher friends around the state here, pass this out, it's stuff that is copyrighted or that is Mesa intellectual property. So just that disclaimer on that. I know we had some schools be like, oh great, we can incorporate that in all of our schools. Like, no. It doesn't work that way. Like, you need to just have some regulation on where our curriculum is out and being used in the name that's been associated with. And some final notes, I'm talking super fast. It's just majority of our communication is through email. So I've already gotten some kickbacks, and every time I get a kickback, I send it to the coordinator like, hey, this school district doesn't like my email. If you need to, like, you have a really strict firewall, like, your district has a really strict firewall, take some time to allow the NM Mesa domain in. Specifically, you have a list of like anita@nmmesa.org, your coordinator@nmmesa.org to make sure that those emails do pass through, because that's how we do all of our communication. If you get an email from me, I don't send much, I don't send junk, don't send spam, but if it comes from me, it's usually like an important statewide update, it's an important statewide opportunity, it's preparation for an event. Like say for this, you signed up for this event, came from me, if I send it to you, please read it, it's important, I try not to spam, but it's usually something important that you should read, so kind of like a flag. I won't spam you otherwise, promise. But the other thing is again, organization, just really using your coordinator as a resource. You'll have an opportunity to mingle with New Mexico Mesa staff. At the last session of this conference tomorrow, you'll get to meet with the other teachers in your region. Use this opportunity 2 days to network. Ask veteran teachers for help. If you have a situation in your school, guarantee there might be another school with maybe similar situations, similar demographics, similar size, that maybe a good time to bounce ideas off of. And ask questions and get them answered. I like to say that Mesa is a pretty friendly group, that if you need questions answered, we're happy to help. We're very accessible. We try to get things answered as they come in. And make your program yours. These are all guidelines. Our best programs are those ones that just have that little touch of you and your students, and whatever just makes it really special and unique. Taking advantage of what you have locally in your area, what you have geographically, what you may be close to. If you're at a school that's like really far, or it's hard to get a bus, like maybe your program focuses on things locally, doing virtual things, people coming to you, workshops coming to your site. Maybe that's the case, and you do one field trip where you go out, and maybe that works best for you and with the resources that you have. But whatever happens there, and again, keeping in mind those patches that you got. Last year was our 40th anniversary for New Mexico Mesa. So we've been in existence in our state for 1982 to 1983. So we survived a lot of ups and downs and funding and whatnot, but we are the longest standing premier STEM organization in the state right now. So we have a long history, we have a great reputation with our partners, with our stakeholders, and now you're a part of it. So thank you for joining us and being on our Mesa team. So it's just, it's important, the Mesa name. You will go around and you say like, I'm a Mesa teacher. I was in Mesa 20 years ago, and you will always come in contact with Mesa alumni. So it's a long legacy that we're very proud of. And so we're just happy to have you here. These last few minutes, I do want to take some time. All right, Kyra kind of said like, pause, it's gonna be okay. If you have not already, these are next steps. Set up a time to meet with your regional coordinator. So especially if you're brand new, if you've not done that already, set up your first initial site visits to get kicked off. They'll work with you, collecting everything, make sure you get started. Find out school logistics, homework, meet with your administrative assistants, meet with your transportation people, meet with your cafeteria people. Again, all of our schools should have like lunch. If you're doing an event and a field trip, figure out what you have to do to get lunches for your programs. Kind of take time of that homework, early. Set times for your meetings, set up a recruitment plan, set up goals, for the year. And then I'm gonna get off of this slide. I'm gonna show you online some of our resources that we have, particularly eQuave and particularly our website. So you as an advisor will track all of the attendance for everything you do at your school site. So that is like all of your service learnings, all your meeting times, all your tips, all your workshops. Your coordinator maintains a separate gradebook that they use for like regional events, and likely statewide events. So they help with part tracking for those things. So like when you go to Mesa Day, when you go to our legislative field trip, you do the regional rally, they have their tracking to make sure that those points are given. And so those two gradebooks together combine to form a student transcript. So like when we are pulling up loyalty tour, that student record maintains, it's the same kind of gradebook, just with two logins, administrative access and student login. And so the student transcript will show all of their activities that they do and then those points get, tracked and carried throughout the year. So, but at the same time, very healthy, keep on top of your grade book. If you see something missing, like, hey, we went to, and I'm guiltiest about this, that's why coordinators have started to help me with this task just because I was very overwhelmed. Like, legislative field trip, and you're like, hey, where's the attendance for that? And the coordinator will be like, it's on my grade book. Here's who I have as attending. Great. So it's always just good to keep regular trackings. There are built-in dates on like our little guideline suggested timeline of checking ThinkWave every couple months. December, a big check-in for high schools to make sure for SIFT, and like your seniors specifically, make sure their grade books are current and up to date, because that impacts loyalty, that impacts the SIFT application. So just keeping those periodic monthly checks. I know as part of even Performance Watch, that is likely if you are a school that happens to be on Performance Watch, even though by no fault of yours as a new teacher, there are going to be some additional checks put in place to help make sure that that data gets inputted and tracked. Because the reason you might be on Performance Watch is simply we didn't have any data. So just kind of keeping track and on top of some of those record things. But ThinkWave is just a tool that we use to track things. So with that being said, we have some time. Is there any last questions from anybody? It threw a lot at you. Definitely threw a lot at you. There's lots of handbooks that we kind of put your way. I'm going to go over in the next session, like the general, statewide information for things. I am also available, whenever you can catch me, this week during meals, nights, evenings, that kind of thing. You'll be around with your regional coordinator tomorrow anytime, but please feel free to chime in if anything in particular pops up. But other than that, we'll go ahead and dismiss.